The Vietnam War was one of the most brutal and complex conflicts of the 20th century. This war was not only a confrontation between the Vietnamese military and the U.S. forces, but also involved the participation of some of the world's top military powers and their highly skilled allied forces. The U.S. and its allies sent troops into South Vietnam with the aim of quickly extinguishing the resistance movement and maintaining the control of the Saigon government. These powers equipped their military with advanced weaponry, including airplanes, artillery, and devastating bombs like the B-52, alongside powerful expeditionary forces. However, on this small S-shaped land, the Vietnamese military, with its strong resilience and deep patriotism, faced and fought relentlessly. The greatest difficulty for Vietnam was the superiority in firepower and military technology of the enemy, as well as the psychological warfare in U.S. support for the Saigon regime. Nevertheless, the Vietnamese People's Army proved its immense strength. They used guerrilla tactics, took advantage of the rugged mountainous terrain, and maintained an unyielding will to stand firm against the power of the enemy, refusing to be subdued. The Vietnamese People's Army, despite facing superior weapons and forces from the U.S. and its allies, not only protected the country, but also rose to international prominence through remarkable victories. The outstanding achievements of the Vietnamese military were not just the result of determination, but also a testament to their unique military art and their ability to adapt flexibly to any battlefield situation. Throughout the resistance, the Vietnamese military created victories that shocked the world, causing military powers to reconsider their adversaries. From guerrilla tactics to large-scale battles, the Vietnamese forces succeeded in defeating some of the most elite armies, inflicting heavy losses on the U.S. and allied expeditionary forces. Victories in battles such as Yang, Van Tuong, Duc Tho, Khe Sanh, and Hamburger Hill forced the U.S. military to adjust its strategy and acknowledge that the Vietnamese military was a worthy opponent. These victories not only enhanced the reputation of the Vietnamese military in the region, but also affirmed their status on the global stage. Global public opinion began to shift regarding the war, as the victories of the Vietnamese military were seen not only as resistance, but as decisive turning points in the fight against imperialism. The image of the resilient and heroic Vietnamese military became a symbol of national strength and indomitable spirit, admired by many nations around the world. The resounding victories of the Vietnamese military not only confirmed their military strength, but also carried their name beyond borders, becoming a symbol of endurance and the fighting spirit. Battles like Khe Sanh, Hamburger Hill, and Duc Tho stirred international public opinion, making the world see the Vietnamese military as an adversary not to be underestimated. These triumphs etched the name of the Vietnamese military into history, becoming a model of national strength and military art. Here are the following battles. Yang Battle of 1965. The Yang Battle, from November 14th to 18th, 1965, in the Ia Dang Valley, Central Highlands, was the first confrontation between U.S. forces and the Southern Liberation Army. It was a test of will and strength between the two sides. Despite the U.S. forces utilizing powerful firepower, including artillery, air force, and even B-52 bombers, the Liberation Army remained firm. In the Albany landing zone, the Vietnamese forces executed a deadly ambush, killing a large number of U.S. soldiers. After several days of fierce fighting, the U.S. forces suffered heavy losses, with over 230 soldiers killed and many of their equipment destroyed. This battle marked a turning point, forcing the U.S. to acknowledge that the Vietnamese military was a real threat. The victory at Van Tuong in 1965, on January 18, 1965, the people of Quang Ngai achieved a resounding victory in a direct confrontation with the U.S. Marine Corps. This was the first major battle between U.S. forces and the Southern Liberation Army on land. While the U.S. reinforced its military to quickly pacify the South, the Liberation Army used ambush tactics to attack the U.S. troops advancing in. Despite the U.S. using artillery, tanks, and aircraft, the Vietnamese military stood their ground, repelling multiple advances. As a result, hundreds of U.S. and Allied troops were eliminated, and this victory became a significant step in the Find the U.S. and Destroy Them campaign in the South. The Duc Tho Battle in 1967. The Duc Tho Battle in November 1967 was one of the key engagements of the Southern Liberation Army in the Duc Tho Ton Can campaign. With the objective of annihilating the U.S. troops in the Central Highlands, the Liberation Army's regiments coordinated closely, setting up a network of traps and luring the enemy into prepared areas. Although the U.S. forces used large forces, including airborne divisions and infantry, to launch a counterattack, the Liberation Army successfully repelled all assaults. This battle caused heavy losses for the U.S. and thwarted their third strategic counteroffensive plan. Duc Tho became a major victory, heralding the climax of the winter-spring 1967 to 1968 period, and played a key role in preparing for the Tet Offensive of 1968. The Long Ton Battle in 1966. On August 18, 1966, in Long Ton, Phuoc Tuy Province, the Vietnamese military directly faced Australian expeditionary forces. Although the Australians declared victory, the battle left significant consequences, proving that foreign expeditionary troops were not safe on the Vietnamese battlefield. The battle lasted nearly 10 hours, with Australian forces repeatedly charging and being met with fierce counterattacks from the Vietnamese military. Despite the Australians receiving support from artillery and helicopters, their assaults were repelled by the Liberation Army. Ultimately, the Australians declared they captured the base, but the heavy losses forced them to withdraw shortly after. The Long Ton Battle became a symbol of the brutality of the Vietnam War. The Khe Sanh Battle in 1968, battle from January 21st to April 8, 1968, was one of the critical battles of the Tet Offensive. The Liberation Army surrounded the U.S. Marine Corps base at Khe Sanh for 77 days, which shocked the international public. The U.S. forces relied on air support and B-52 bombers to protect the base. However, the Liberation Army successfully isolated the base and inflicted heavy losses on the U.S., forcing them to face uncontrollable counterattacks. Although the U.S. held the base, this victory was merely tactical. This battle not only showed Vietnam's military strength, but also affirmed the indomitable will of the people in the face of the overwhelming military might of the U.S. The Hamburger Hill Battle in 1969. The Hamburger Hill Battle, in May 1969, in the Aso Valley, Thu Thien Hue, was a bloody confrontation between the U.S. forces and the Liberation Army. The U.S. military, with artillery, helicopters, and napalm bombs, repeatedly attacked Hill 937, but they faced intense fire and counterattacks from the Liberation Army's positions. After a week of intense fighting, the U.S. took the hill, but at a devastating cost, with over 400 U.S. soldiers killed or wounded. The Hamburger Hill Battle sparked a strong anti-war protest in the U.S., raising questions about the rationality of the U.S. strategy in Vietnam. The Route 9 South Laos Campaign in 1971. The Route 9 South Laos Campaign, in early 1971, was one of the largest efforts by U.S. and Saigon forces to invade Laos and sever the Ho Chi Minh Trail. However, the Vietnamese forces launched a counteroffensive, organizing ambushes and encirclements that depleted the South Vietnamese forces. After more than a month of fighting, the campaign failed, forcing the U.S. and Saigon forces to withdraw in chaos, leaving behind significant losses. This was a crucial victory, proving that even with modern U.S. support, the Saigon military could not withstand the Liberation Army's strength and tactics. The indomitable spirit and unwavering will of the Vietnamese People's Army were the key factors that helped them overcome the harshest challenges in the war against the U.S. Despite being attacked by the world's most powerful military forces, equipped with advanced weapons, air support, artillery, and devastating bombs like B-52s, the Vietnamese military held their ground. It was the relentless spirit, deep patriotism, and endless sacrifice of the soldiers that prevented them from ever succumbing to the enemy. Despite facing superiority in firepower and technology, the Vietnamese military employed sophisticated guerrilla tactics, exploiting the rugged mountainous terrain to set up ambushes and strike at the enemy's weaknesses. This not only weakened the U.S. forces, but also forced them to confront significant losses, making them change strategies and acknowledge that Vietnam was not an easy target to defeat. This resilient spirit was further manifested through the unity and courage of the Vietnamese military and people. In the midst of fierce battles, each soldier fought with determination to protect their homeland, even at the cost of their lives. Victories like Van Tuong, Dak To, and Khe Sanh were clear demonstrations of this resilience. These victories were not just military successes, but victories of the human spirit, perseverance, and the unwavering goal of reclaiming independence and freedom for the nation. This indomitable spirit also inspired the global anti-war movement. International public opinion began to change about the Vietnam War when witnessing the resilience and courage of the Vietnamese military. This spirit became a symbol for nations fighting for independence and freedom, asserting that no foreign power could subdue the will for freedom and the yearning for peace of the Vietnamese people. Vietnam's military strength was powerfully affirmed through the resounding victories in the War of Resistance against the U.S. Despite facing an enemy with superior military capabilities, including advanced weaponry, airplanes, artillery, and powerful allied forces, the Vietnamese military maintained the initiative on the battlefield. Thanks to their sophisticated guerrilla tactics, their abilities, terrain, and natural conditions to create ambushes, the Vietnamese military inflicted severe losses on the enemy, weakening the U.S. forces and preventing them from achieving their strategic objectives. Moreover, Vietnam's military strength came not only from their weaponry, but also from their courageous fighting spirit, deep patriotism, and strong unity within the ranks. Each victory, such as Dak To, Khe Sanh, or Hamburger Hill, was not just a military triumph, but a symbol of a nation's strength, unyielding in the face of all external attacks. These victories changed the international perspective on Vietnam, making the world recognize Vietnam as a military power with the capability to fight fiercely and skillfully, ready to defeat any invading enemy.